So let's talk about your research project. This is the big assignment that's going to eat up a big chunk of our semester. So each of these little quadrants here we're going to visit in the hopes of giving you some clarity as to what to expect out of our class for the ensuing weeks. Let's see. There we go. There's all the places we're going to go. Okay, so firstly, you're going to choose a topic. I have plenty to say about that. Then you're going to read up on your topic. You're going to smarten yourself. Then you're going to investigate that topic. You're going to view it with a critical eye through a particularly rhetorical lens. And then, and only then, is it time for you to write. Okay, so let's start with choosing a topic. All right, your topic is up to you. You can write on anything that you want. Some topics, and I have a lot of thoughts about this, they lend themselves to better essays than others, but ultimately whatever you want to write on, I'm going to let you write on, but you will know my opinion on your planned topic if you invite me to know about it. So choose a topic that you're interested in because you'll be spending lots of time with it. I hope that's obvious. Now this is an important one, a topic that is being written about. Not only will it make researching easier, but you will be able to add you'll be able to add to the conversation that's already happening about your topic. You won't be merely repeating what other people have already said. You'll be instead weighing into a conversation as it's happening in real life. Okay, a topic that is up for grabs, that is something that people can have different opinions on. Static topics lead to static writing, and we don't want that. We want your overall goal to be argumentative or persuasive in nature. With me so far? If you have questions, you can send me an email. You can set up a video conference. We can have another classroom visit. We can talk on the phone. Lots of ways for us to keep in touch. All right, and then a topic that you have an opinion about, obviously, that you have hopefully some passion about, or at least some like intellectual curiosity in, because that will help you develop a clear stance. Now that word stance becomes important later on as well. Okay, and then you also want to choose a topic that, smiley face, I approve of. So again, the more you bring me into your topic selection process, the better. I'm going to get a sense of what your topic is through the discussion forums and other sort of like supplemental or ancillary materials. But the sooner I know what your topic is, the sooner I can give you my 2 cents on it. Okay, so now it's time you choose a topic. It's time to read up on that topic. All right, and there are going to be all sorts of sources that you use in the course of getting read up on your topic. So you need to be, the word expert gets thrown around a lot in assignments like this, and I think that maybe is a bit too far, but you definitely want to have authority over the subject that you're writing about. And nothing gives you more authority than hearing all the different competing or differing or complementary perspectives on a topic. So you want to be able to lend some, you want to have credibility in your voice. And the best way to do that is to read up, because you will see what people are saying about your topic today, not last year, not last decade, but today. Okay, so different sources, this is on your assignment sheet, but you'll be using the digital databases like Academic Search Complete in order to have your professional academic sources. Okay, you have popular sources as well, and that's probably what we think about more traditionally when we think about sources. Online and print-based magazines and newspapers are going to be like the most popular sources that we'll use, and it's for a good reason, because lots of good writers get paid to write for magazines and newspapers. Doesn't sound like fun. It's not a question. It's a declaration. It's an exclamation. Fun times. You also have to do some primary sources in terms of, well, one primary source, an interview or a survey or maybe an observation. You can also use primary source that's already been conducted. That is to say, like an interview on YouTube or a podcast or a written up interview. So you don't have to conduct the primary research. You just have to cite one piece of primary research. Again, you don't have to gather it yourself. You can, if you want to create, conduct an interview or distribute a survey, go right ahead. It's not a hard and fast requirement of the assignment, and not doing so won't adversely affect your grade. Okay, so you pick a topic, you read up on your topic, and now it's time to get all Holmesy in there. You get out your magnifying glass and well, don't smoke pipes. You will then inquire. You will investigate your topic. You will participate, I guess, in academic inquiry, which is a very important part of considering yourself to be a scholar. Okay, you'll find, hopefully through the process of researching, you're going to find something significant to explore. I get a lot of questions about this, and that's mostly by people who don't watch this screencast. So if you're watching the screencast, I don't imagine I'll have an email from you, but if you hear some grumbling by other people who haven't bothered to watch the screencast, help me out, help me help them. A significant something, it's usually like, when you're going through research, like when you have, like, if you're like a highlighter person, if you're if you're an underliner, or if you're are highlighting text as you're like clicking through and reading, usually when something jumps out at you, like, oh, I absolutely have to highlight that, or I have to notate that in some way. That's usually what a significant something is. And the forms they can take is just about anything. Anything's possible at the end of the day. So it could be a stat, or a report, or a law that's on the books. I get a lot of those. A trend, something that people are doing more or less these days. It could be like a person, and it could be a text. This is not an exhaustive list. Text, and not in like the text message sense of it, although I guess it could be. But what I mean by text is like any sort of document that we can examine, like a film, or a website, or an app, or a TED Talk, any sort of other thing that doesn't fall into these other more rigid categories. So you want to find that significant something. Like I was reading up on obesity rates in order to help a student who was working on an essay recently, and 32% of Ohioans are obese. In and of itself, that number doesn't mean anything, but to me, that number flies off the page. I cannot believe, not overweight people, obese. Okay, it was 15%. It was half that a generation ago in 1991. So just ponder that for a second. Okay, so it's doubled. Obesity rates have never doubled in a generation ever. So that number, again, doesn't have to mean anything to you, but it jumps out to me. So I may take that special something, that significant statistic, and I would ask a research question. That's something that you're going to have to do as well. The entire sort of motor of your essay is going to be propulsed forward by the strength of your research question. Okay, and I have plenty of thoughts on the research question as well. So, who, what, where, when are great questions. Who participates in this? What can we learn from this? Where does this happen? And that has to do with narrowing, which we'll talk about here in a second. When does this happen? So getting you to boil down the particulars of your topic into something that is manageable. Now, 1,250 words maybe sounds like a lot to you. It is not a lot at the end of the day. So in terms of framing your argument, I like these two the best. Why does this happen? Where has this, where does this number come from? Where is this special significant something? Where does it come from? And what do we do about it? How do we decrease the number? How do we increase the number depending on what you find and what you choose to write on? I like, it helps you kind of break this essay into maybe like two parts, like a why, like what got us here, because that sort of thinking is argumentative in nature, because your causes for a problem in society might be different from the causes that I would develop. Right? So there's instant debatability there. So that really helps us clear that argumentative bar. It keeps you away from writing a report, which is very important. And then how can we address this? Well, how do you solve a problem? Well, it might be different than how I solve a problem. So again, we're being immediately argumentative, rhetorical, persuasive. You see what I'm saying? So I really like why questions. I really like how questions, and essays that kind of combine them both, those can be successful. Okay, so it'll be my job, like I just said a little bit ago, to help you narrow down your question to something manageable. Narrow is important. That's why it's so big there. So instead of saving the world, why don't you just save Stark County? Better yet, why don't you save Massillon or Jackson Township or wherever your local community is? Okay, and then the other easy way to narrow a topic is by population. Instead of just everyone on the planet, how about college students? How about, like it says, they're females? How about young voters? Right? The more you narrow your population, the better. Okay, so this is an example of a poor research question. What is the difference between type 1 and type 2 diabetes? There's a very straightforward medical answer to that question. And so you would just be reporting if this was your question. Okay, you can narrow it into why are children being diagnosed with type 2 diabetes in record numbers? So again, there's we could even take that a step further and make it like, why are Stark County children being diagnosed with type 2 diabetes? Okay, you can clearly play into the risks involved. Kids who are diagnosed with type 2 diabetes, of course, their health is more perilous than students who aren't. Okay, and then there's the why question. Let me go back for a second. There's the why. What got us here? Is it lack of recess? Is it portion sizes? Is it fast food? Is it nobody knows how to cook anymore? Right? Is it everybody stays inside? Is it screen saturation? Of course, are we all just on our phones too much, etc. And then the how question. How can Ohio work to reduce type 2 diabetes in children? So what got us here? What can get us out of this? What will get us into this mess? And how can we get out? That's the most direct path of least resistance to having an essay that is argumentatively curious. All right, so we've chosen a topic, we've read up, we've investigated, and now it is time to write your research project. Okay, so how you answer your research question will lead to your general stance. Okay, and if you're more comfortable with like thesis statements, that sort of thing, okay, fine. Your reasons in support of your stance will lead to your claims. And so claims can be lots of things. They can be different causes to explain the presence of a problem, like I just said. It could be steps to a solution. It could be criteria that you apply in support of an evaluation. Those, if you want to write about, Quentin Tarantino is the greatest director of all time. You want to get into those like greatest of all time sorts of arguments, you would apply certain criteria and then you could compare. So most of the time students stick with, it can also be like reasons in support of a particular perspective, which I think are a little flimsier claims because they, well, we don't have to get totally into it, but they don't withstand as much scrutiny as causes for a problem, steps to a solution. Those are nice and tangible and tactile. You can usually kind of get your arms around them in ways that readers can understand fairly directly. Okay, so this is kind of far down the road, so you don't have to be worrying about claims yet, at least not just yet, but soon enough. Okay, and then your claims will each sort of correspond to a paragraph or a unit. Students tend to feel comfortable thinking about writing in terms of like paragraphing, so I kind of teach it that way, although I believe that you can have a claim that lasts a couple of paragraphs, of course. Okay, and then your paragraphs, your claims will be supported. You will provide evidence in support of your claims, and these are the most typical expert opinion, and that can come from lots of different places. It doesn't just have to be journals, peer-reviewed journals, and experts found that way. You can find lots of expert opinions in TED Talks. You can find them on YouTube. There are lots of ways to find expert opinions. Stats, of course, people are very comforted. Most people are comforted by numbers, by data, by studies, those sorts of things. So, of course, the more grounded in like measurable reality, I think, the better. Then there's always the popular sources that you're gonna have to have two of, which are the online, magazines, newspapers, and websites. You can use your personal experiences to support your claims if they are completely relevant and you can analyze them in a meaningful way. Again, primary research, I think I've said my piece on that. You have to do like an interview or a survey, or you have to find someone else's interview or survey. And then examples from the real world and reasonably hypothetical examples can work as well. Okay, so basically this is like the architecture of your essay here. I wish I had a pointer I could click. Since I click, it'll go away, right? Yep. So there's your stance. See how I'm going to go back. How your stance, it comes from, you're going to probably have more than 3 claims, but that's all I could fit into this little tree here. So each claim is then supported by a variety of evidentiary mechanisms. All right, so I think this goes on. So your stance, you're going to have 3 claims for your stance, but this claim is going to be supported by, say, an expert opinion, and then a statistic, and then maybe a personal experience. The more evidence you provide in support of your claim, the more that claim is going to resound with your stance. See what I'm doing there? And so on and so forth. You can mix and match. And these, I do 3s because people tend to think in 3s. But this is how you'll build out your essay, your research project. We'll have lots of little assignments that will help you flesh these ideas out. But that's the basics of it. Not much time left here. Can I go big? Okay, so of course I am here to help you at every phase of this, of course, from choosing the topic. I think that's the most important phase, at least for our current concerns, but finding sources, locating them, incorporating them into your essay, making sure that your argument withstands skepticism. I'm here for all that. I want you to succeed, and I hope that you will include me in every phase of the research project. Let's be proud of this one, okay?